Shorts theme song. Nice shorts. Yeah.
Howdy, hey, and welcome to Nice Shorts.
I am Fu Yang.
And I'm Johnny Niddle.
And this is a show where we interview animators about the shorts they make.
Because they make nice shorts.
And to help us all learn from each other's work.
Yes, sharing is caring.
This episode's guest is Dux.
Dux is a Florida-based animator currently wrapping up his MFA in animation and visual effects. He makes comics, illustrations, and animations, most of which you can find on his wonderful Instagrammy under the handle, now wait for it, Dux, D-U-X, no relation to DMX.
In this interview, he walks us through his development of Portal Problem, a red mixed media short which he is about to finish up. Dux takes us through his entire process and gives us some sneaky peeky along the way.
A heads up for our audio listening friends. While we love your ears, this is a visually heavy episode with many, many things to look at. So if you're not watching this on our YouTube, then you may want to go switch to that now.
And now on with the show.
Yay!
Yay!
Hi, Dux.
Hi. Are we starting?
I guess, yeah, we might as well.
All right, cool.
I already took like 20 minutes of your time.
I got all day, so I'm good.
Well, that's good because I think you have a lot of cool stuff to show.
Hot dog. Glad you think so.
Did you say hot dog?
Yeah.
I love that. Please make that really like officially a bring back saying.
I do say it a lot. At my old job, they still send me like videos of hot dogs and things. My dad says it a lot, so I got it from him, I think.
Question, please.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us what the job was that you kept saying hot dog at?
Oh,
you don't have to.
I can't say what company it was, but it was like a tech kind of company, and I did a lot of repairs in that company.
Okay.
So back in the repair room, people would be like, "Hey, I got a new repair." I'd be like, "Oh, hot dog, put it on the bench."
Without answering, I'm guessing I could probably guess what color shirts they wore at this place.
Probably, yeah. You
Okay.
could probably guess what kind of thing you eat in affiliation with it.
what kind of IQ they say their bar has. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, no idea what company though. Got it. You are awesome and do awesome stuff. That's basically it. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You are currently teaching.
Well, not actually currently. Kind of currently. So up until a couple of days ago, I was teaching as a GTA at my university. But I had kind of been talking with them a long time about providing more social distancing options for faculty. Because right now the faculty are being really awesome about offering them for students, but the university isn't being so lax with offering it for faculty. And I got kind of overwhelmed with the guilt of possibly, subjecting 30 people to these little like mini spreader events every single week, multiple times a month. So yeah, it came down to the point where I was like, well, if I can't, keep my community and my family safe, I just really can't afford to to be doing a teacher position right now. But so I'll be eating ramen noodles for the next couple of months. But hey, at least I'm not dying or killing people, so I'm fine.
We should probably tell people who don't know you are based in Florida.
I am based in Florida, the good old COVID capital of the world right now. Well, probably at least I think we're only second in the United States. I think somebody outdid us, but I forgot who.
That's a fun race to win.
Yeah, we're number one.
So you were teaching there because you are working on your MFA there.
I am, yeah. So I'm working as a grad student in the animation and visual effects MFA and doing a little film and having fun with that.
You say a little film, but I mean, oh my God, it's a lot of work.
It's I put a lot on myself. So typically the films they're supposed to run about 2 minutes to 3 minutes, and we're supposed to spend 3 years on that in the program. And mine is pushing about 4 minutes right now. So, which was cut down from like about, I think like 5.5 minutes. So yeah, I don't like myself very much. That's why I like to do this to myself.
And when you tell someone you're doing a 5.5 minute film and they go, oh yeah, cool, that sounds hard. But then why don't you explain how many different mediums you have in it?
Oh yeah, so the whole preface of my film revolves around the idea of teleportation devices being commonplace. That's kind of like, the assumed pretext of the film. And so within that, to show it visually, I have all these different kind of mediums. Like, for example, I have the main thing that you'll see if you watch my film is going to be 2D characters that are animated over a hand-built set background. But then there's also a moment where there's like a huge explosion where reality is kind of collapsing on itself. And at that point, I have a whole bunch of different mediums like popping in and out all over the place. So in addition to being a little bit over the time that I'm supposed to have, I also have like a whole bunch of new mediums that I'm kind of learning on the fly as well.
And one of those is the really cool thing you started doing like last week, which, do you want to say what it was?
Oh, are you talking about the puppets?
But it's not just a puppet. It is a massive puppet. It's, well, I guess Muppets owned. We can't say that, but it is a huge puppet. It
is a pretty big puppet. It has to fit my hand, and I guess I have pretty massive hands. So yeah. I guess I could grab it really quick if you guys want to see it on the camera, like next to my head.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. I'll be right back.
Absolutely.
In my film, my characters kind of like phase through all these different realities. So you see them in all these different kind of like, different modalities of representation. So I've got all these little wires sticking out because I don't have enough hands to film and also to like operate the puppet. So I have like, I don't know if you guys can see these little wires, and they're supposed to like stick into the hands and like hold them up. And that when I shake them, like you see on the right, his
that
hands
is so
shaking.
cool. Yeah.
So yeah, he's just like this stupid little gross puppet. And this is supposed to be one of my characters. And to prevent me having to make a body, I just, my mom had this idea to make this sock that is just painted in the colors of my character's shirt. And then that way I don't have to make a whole new body out of foam and stuff. So
that's genius.
One of the reasons that you'll also see, like, I probably would have spent a lot more time like finally crafting it and sewing out the pattern and everything. This is kind of like slapped together, kind of to like, it's only shown for like less than a second on the screen. But just enough to kind of like get to the audience that they're going through all these different little phases.
So it will be like live action shooting, right? Because you are using the wires, not like stop motion frame by frame for that little clip. Kind of. Yeah. So I actually I have an Instagram friend named Terry who does really just fantastic. He also has a podcast as well, but he has some really awesome stop motion work that he does. And I talked to him about managing, like, I'm so used to 2D and like saying, okay, I'm going to like scoot around my frames and time out everything. And like, I was like, how does that translate to something like stop motion or photography, where the only way, I mean, I can't think of like doing keyframes and then going back and like filling in them perfectly. And so he was talking about how to use Dragon Frame and like animate my stuff ahead of time, and then use Dragon Frame to overlay and then like position my characters where I need to position them. So I already have like a little roadmap of what to do. So it'll probably be something like that, but there might be also live action kind of shaking as well or something.
That shaking arm was so much fun. I just, even if you don't use it for that, just film it and send it to me.
Yeah.
It was just cool. So you have been making this for 3 years, and you're going to be super, super, super rad and share with us all of that planning.
Yeah, for sure. I actually have a little benchmark presentation that I present, and that has a lot of pretty good imagery, I think. So these guys here, this is what was like one of the first things that you do when you get into the MFA program that I'm in, is you make these beat boards that are supposed to be kind of like as close as you can conceptualizations to what the finished scenes would look like for major scenes in your film. So we have like, you know, them just talking and chatting in the bathroom and him telling him everything's okay, like, you know, walking over to the portal. Then you have like the scene where they're hidden in the jacket together. And I originally had like a little scene in the toilet where because I love bathroom scenes. I think they're the best scenes. And
can you please state again why you didn't do that scene? I thought it was a really cool answer last time.
Yeah. So a couple of reasons. So like I said before, there was like my film was about like 5.5 minutes before, and then it's about 4 minutes now, because you know, doing a 5.5 minute film, that's, you know, 5.5 minutes thing you have to actually create from here. It's not like I can just like point and shoot and there it is. But
right.
So I was trying to think of ways to make this more manageable. And one of the ways was cutting out this extra scene where they leave and go to the bathroom. Since I have these physically built sets, that would mean I'd have to build a whole new bathroom. And I already have in building this first shot in the upper left, I had to make bathroom stuff like toilets and everything, and they were really hard to make. So I was like, well, maybe I can cut this out. And so instead of having this, now the character just like goes in his own jacket. He like, you know, turtles it up around his head and screams at the other character within his own little jacket. And it's actually a lot funnier that way too, in my opinion. So yeah, this is just a lot of extra stuff about like how we developed the film. Like these are little intensity charts that show how the character's emotion changes with the audience emotion. And these are really nice just because you can kind of go back to them very often when you're trying to make sure that you have like a cohesive product. Because I find that's really important for trying to make sure that your film looks like one thing instead of a bunch of random things that you've done throughout 3 years.
May I ask, like for that part, for the audience reaction and how you create your story, is that what the class had teach you, or it's because of your background helping you, like as a psychology?
Yeah, so that is so it was assigned as like a class assignment. They told us to do a lot of like for instance, these beat boards were also assigned as an assignment as well. But it was kind of like you chose how you wanted things to change.
Yes.
So we'd be given examples of what people have done in the past, but what you do with your own film is very unique to your own project. So yeah, definitely my psych, I guess we should have said that at the beginning, maybe. So I don't actually have like my undergrad isn't in animation at all. Animation and like illustration and drawing is just something I've done like since I came out of the womb, just with a pencil. I don't know what a pencil is doing in there, but you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like a lot of the stuff that informs a lot of the way that I craft things does actually have to do with just what I've learned in psychology as well.
That's amazing. I think we have other artists who also have that similar background, and the way they pour out the work have more deep thoughts about it. Like,
yeah, I feel like it's super helpful to actually have a background that's not an art back. I mean, it kind of is frustrating because, you know, I'm going into the industry, you know, like I look at my peers and all of my peers have like these fully crafted portfolios.
yeah.
And my portfolio is essentially like, well, it's all the stuff that I just throw on Instagram, just these stupid little jokey, you know, like dolphins with legs and stuff like that. And then like what I've done on my thesis, and that's like it. So I don't have anything looking like nearly as professional as any of the other, you know, colleague stuff. But yeah, so I do think it's really helpful to actually have a non-animation background though, because first of all, you feel a little bit more secure going in, since like the animation industry can be kind of tumultuous in terms of like you're doing all these like gig-based things, and sometimes you don't know how much space you're going to have between like one employment and the next employment.
Yeah.
So you kind of have something to fall back on, so you can feel a little bit more confident in your decisions. But also, I feel like for psychology, for instance, we had to do tons of statistics classes and tons of like logic classes and like how to, you know, read a paper and how to approach something very systematically and very objectively. as objective as you can, I guess. But and that's kind of nice because I feel like that informs a lot of the decisions that I make, and I don't get as caught up in like kind of like the spiraling self-doubt that I think a lot of other people tend to get caught up in. I feel like that sounds really like presumptuous, but
I appreciate that.
I feel like I can step back though really easily and go like, okay, well, let me look at the data and let me see like, all right, how are people responding to this? What can I change? What's working? What's not working? And I can like just calm down and think of it like a problem or a puzzle instead of like, you know, this is my work and someone who insults my work is insulting me as a person.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I hope more people can start to think about that because for promoting the film, it's also full about the service and also like marketing to sell your value. How do you bring some value to the audience?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I feel like I'm also a little bit like I don't know. I feel like it's just, I guess I shouldn't say necessarily non-animation background, but just to be well-rounded in general, to make sure that you're, you know, make sure that you're aware of many different concepts and how they like how you can like look at the nitty gritty and then also step back and look at like the holistic problem.
Yes.
I think that's just the important thing, not necessarily like having a non-art or an art background or whatever.
Actually, that's something that we didn't touch on, but your concept behind the entire thing is also quite in depth as well.
I guess I can go into some more of that.
Yes.
This is like the first picture I ever drew of them. And the way I actually came up with the little storyline was this was a show idea that I really wanted to pitch to like Adult Swim or, you know, kind of like a more adult kind of cartoon, even though it's not like, it's not sexual, it's not super violent or anything like that. It's just, it's not really made, it's not like, you know, trying to teach lessons or anything like that. It's just literally an enjoyment kind of thing. And it deals with adult issues like, you know, paying taxes and debt and stuff. So like kids don't always relate to that as well as adults do.
The really fun stuff.
Yeah. I think kids could probably watch it and get a kick out of it, but it really is dealing with like people who are trying to exist as adults. But this was like the first kind of idea that I had was just this little like spur of the moment, them getting fused together. And so that's the thing that I was like, all right, well, what if they did this and they were trying to hide it from everyone? That'd be pretty hard, I guess. And so these are a whole bunch of kind of like continuous things that I tended to build up over social media and stuff. So if you go to my Instagram, you'll see some of these in the annals of history.
Can we go back real fast?
Over here?
The bottom left.
Bottom left?
What was that concept going to be? Because that looks fun.
That was just me kind of like exploring all these different like kind of ideas of different characters that they could meet. Because like the idea for the show pitch was that they are marketing students that have just graduated from their college, and they so since like teleportation is kind of like a common thing, you can go to all these different dimensions and everything, and there's all these different characters that'll run around the city and everything, and their efforts are to try to sell to those characters, to try to like, you know, so like the puppy people trying to I don't know, trying to sell cowboy boots to the puppy people would be like, you know, an episode that would kind of drive the plot along while other things were happening in their life.
Oh, each character will have their own episode about their young adult's life, something like that, celebrating.
So there's two main characters. So it kind of focuses around them, and kind of what I liked the idea of was like, unfortunately, I do kind of the opposite in my film, but in the show, I thought it'd be cool if like it focused on them at the beginning, and then they would like spread out and like do their own things. And so you'd have like these interspliced, you know, episodes of what's happening while they're going on, like while they're doing their own things, and then they'd meet back up at the end.
Yeah.
And that was going to be like kind of the general driving formula for a lot of the episodes.
Yeah.
But and like how far they go kind of like would dictate exactly how insane things are getting in their world.
Wow.
I wouldn't be able to put Powerline in there because I'm pretty sure that is a copyright issue, but yeah, so take out Powerline and maybe that would look a little bit more authentic.
Selling boots to puppies does sound pretty fun though.
Yeah. But so yeah, these I just did a lot of stupid little short comics and stuff to try to flesh out their personalities. And this was this was kind of like in our classes, one of the first things we do are these character iterations as well to try to flesh out what our characters are going to look like. So this was my first pass at that in like, you know, my classwork.
Yeah.
And then they changed a little bit as I continued doing like research.
Looking at your work, you have a specific color palette you like to choose. Yeah, is there any reason?
One of the reasons that I used really intense color palettes for this particular project was like, so everything's like super highly saturated. And I feel like that really complements just my line art style, but also just the fact that you have all of this, like this interdimensional travel. For instance, like when I had them originally, they had more human kind of tones to them. And I figured that like, if you have interdimensional travel, you're going to have, first of all, reality kind of shifting all the time. But second of all, you're going to have all this like different interspecies kind of like merging. And, you know, like maybe if I was in that world, I would meet myself from, you know, dimension 1x9 or something where I'm blue and, you know, have like 5 arms or something, but somehow we'd still be able to produce offspring. So like you have like all these, like, I didn't like the idea of like any kind of like I wanted to make a human so that people could still see themselves in the characters pretty easily. But like, I felt like I still wanted to make it very alien so people realize that these weren't regular people, that these like have all sorts of different influences that are stuff that we don't have in our lives, I guess.
I love to hear that. Yes, you consider that and put that into your color choice, man.
Yeah, and I also I guess I just like eye strain too. That's probably giving people a headache. But yeah, so we did like these whole runs where we did like a buttload of silhouettes and stuff, and then from those silhouettes we would kind of refine different, you know, different personalities and different attributes and everything. And this was kind of like the final character design, so he looks a little bit different than the original one where he just kind of has this jelly bean round square face. So we did all these different outfit tests and stuff, and this is like the actual final turnaround where I you know, discerned the baseline palette, even though the palette kind of like, you know, how in My Life as a Teenage Robot you have these like really amazing color boards of like when Jenny is just at school, she's a completely different palette than when she's fighting in space or something. So like this is the baseline, kind of what informs the other stuff, so I can kind of retain those attributes, but they do kind of change depending on what environment they're in.
Yeah.
Are there rules behind the changes?
So there's, I guess we'll actually get to that after. Let me speed. So this is Jonesy, the other character.
You don't just speed up anything. We got time.
And then here's Polly. That's the third like main character. And then I think one last thing. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So these were different color tests that I did. I wanted to, again, like retain that like really saturated kind of look, but I tried all these different colors. You can see I even tried them with each other's colors, kind of scooted around there. But I felt like the color choice at the initial thing was actually kind of the strongest one, so that's what I stuck with.
It's which one is that? Or now it's still during exploration? The left one.
Yeah, this one in the upper left, that's the baseline colors.
Okay.
So like given perfect lighting and, you know, no like crazy orange reflection, this is like the theoretical colors that they would have.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Is there a reason you went for a gradient only on her hair?
Yeah, I think that was more of like a design kind of thing where she just had more hair, and it was like a more since the shape of her hair was a little bit more simplified than the rest of them, it just felt like it needed a little bit. And also she's just more well put together than all of them. I feel like she actually kind of like has time because she organizes her work day to like take care of herself, where they're just like, you know, flying by at the seat of their pants. But yeah, you can see here like the colors from the actual environments, they would theoretically, if I was in an orange room, I would have orange light reflecting on me. So
Yeah.
to make them look a little bit natural, they kind of pick up some of those colors. And then there's an explosion scene, and that one's actually going to be a little bit more drastic, and you're going to have like bright red outlines and stuff to make everything look like, you know, just even more alien than it did before.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I have some nice like, all right, everyone, we're gonna just calm down and not have these high intensity yellow and reds, and we're just kind of a nice little blue to kind of like give the audience a break.
Yeah. So when you're doing like different version to test out those colors, is that like you put those options under the scenery which might have those light, and you test it out, and after that you choose your final to know that that color version really works well and readable. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Before I even touched any wood to design the actual set that they were going to be in, that's one of the reasons that I did all these different tests here to try to make sure that they would register on their backgrounds. Because actually, usually when you see like a lot, especially like Disney cartoons and stuff, like films, a lot of times their characters will be a little bit more saturated and a little bit more bright than their backgrounds. Their backgrounds will be like just slightly more toned down. So the characters pop up and they'll draw your attention, because that's what usually people are trying to focus on. So because I wanted to keep that like alien super saturated kind of look to it, I had to just make sure that the colors didn't blend with any of the colors that the characters were wearing. And that's kind of hard because I use almost every single color in their palette. But it actually, like when I go in, you guys will kind of see it too once I show the later slides of, I guess we'll get to them a little bit later, but like there's like kind of the definition in line. I put like a little bit of blur on them to kind of help them stand out a little bit more too, but also just the medium differences as well. Like if you look at a flat two-dimensional character on top of a photographic background, that flat two-dimensional character is so unnatural that it's probably going to stand out a little bit anyway. And that seems to be what happens.
It's nice to know.
Yeah. And this kind of talks about what you were talking about earlier, Johnny, with like the conceptual design that I was doing. So this was just like my little spectrum of how the characters move and how their bodies bend. So basically it kind of ranges on their personality. When the characters get more wild, they get way more like rubber hose, kind of like old Mickey, old Felix the Cat kind of stuff. And then when they're like more calm and a little bit more human-like, I guess, then they get a little bit more like bending at angles and a little bit more like, you know, human kind of proportions. But like all the characters kind of change between these things. I just say like Polly, for instance, she's the most grounded, so she usually has more angular motion. And then Jonesy's kind of just like really wild, so he just is always like loopy. But if Polly gets really scared or really like, you know, she's starting to feel the effects of the portal, she'll get kind of loopy too. So yeah, it's here or there. And these are just some background characters that I have. Just putting in some representation and all that. I haven't decided yet whether or not they're going to be solid colors. I have to see how practical that is, because they're only in like 1 or 2 shots, so it's probably not going to be that hard to make them colored if I need to. Yeah, here he is with the jacket that he pulls over to hide Jonesy's bulbous head. So I had all these kind of like concepts of like, this is a little prototype in the center that I built. This was on the right. It was a layout that I did in some 3D software just before I started cutting wood. I wanted to make sure that it actually looked the way it was supposed to. So I have all these like little, I don't have them here. They're on campus right now, but I have these little paper cutouts that I made of the characters.
Mock-up?
Yeah. They're like these little, they're like little cardboard standees. And I did that so that I could, since the characters don't have really human proportions, I needed to adjust my sets to kind of reflect that. Like you'll see the doors, a lot of them are like way narrower than doors would actually be in real life. Not in this one, this is just a little prototype to make sure I could actually build a set. But yeah, so like, you know, and like the chairs, they're a little bit different. And, you know, they've got these like really long, tiny tubey legs. And so I needed to like put those in while I was building to make sure that it would actually look right next to the character.
So cool.
and this is what we were talking about before with the theoretical like shells of mediums.
Yes.
Yeah, this is where it gets wild, and I love it.
Yeah, so this is kind of like the guiding principle for any kind of scene composition. So central most, you would have a 2D character. So if you have a character in the scene, it's almost always going to be a 2D character. And then whatever would contain that character, the first shell should usually be a 3D concept or a physical concept, like a hand-built wooden set. Or at one point when he goes into that jacket, you actually see I actually have it hanging up on the wall here. I hung it up so that it would cut out the light. I didn't make it. So this is the fabric jacket. So I actually sewed together this weird little pattern, and that's so I took a photograph and I like curved it into the shape of a jacket to contain the 3D character. And you'll actually see that in the thing that we were talking about.
Yeah, may I ask about the fabric, your jacket's fabric, or what type of texture is that?
Yeah, since it's the inside of a jacket, it just kind of needed to look like a soft lining. So I think actually this was just like the closest color I could get to what I needed. And it's I think it's actually like bathing suit fabric my mom had from when I was like a young child, but it was the right color pink. So I was like, okay, this won't take too much photo editing.
Okay. It's quite flexible too, right?
Yeah, it's super, super stretchy. I figured that seemed like something that would be on the inside of a jacket, at least on camera, it would register well.
I think your mom is my hero. She can make bathing suits.
She's really very impressive when it comes to fabricating things. She actually has like a home business where she does embroidery and, textile customization and stuff. And so she has a lot of like cool stuff just kind of lying around the house. And also when we were really young, I don't know if you guys want to show this at some point, but I can give you a picture of one of the costumes she made. We would like have like Sonic and Tails costumes and stuff. And,
that's nice. Yeah, we'd love to see that.
I want to show everything. This sounds, I think it's just perfect.
Yeah. She made these really cool like Power Ranger costumes, and she made the helmets out of fabric and like cut little holes in like the felt mask. And so they're a little creepy looking back on them, but like as a kid, it was like so empowering.
A little curious, like, does your mom know that now you create such a wonderful set and also like a super cute Muppet, like you are able to deliver that as well?
Yeah, she does. So I moved away from my undergrad, but when I came back, my graduate degree, the college is actually really close to where my parents live. So I moved pretty close to where they are. And so every once in a while I'll go over there and just be like, Mom, the sewing machine isn't working. What's wrong with it? And she'll be able to help me troubleshoot or something. And she's really talented.
Does Mom get a credit in the end of the film for production?
She probably will. Yeah.
Okay.
My brother also, he's gotten really into like 3D printing and stuff. And so he like, I don't know if you guys can see this right here. That's the back of one of the chairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd bring some of the sets here, but they're all on campus because they're in the middle of that explosion shot.
Yes.
So they're not here.
It's okay. We'll see them like in the future when you finish your film.
Yeah. Actually, I can show you a couple of shots that I'm working on that have them moving around in them and stuff.
Well, yeah. So before we steal you too far away though, so now we're to the cool 3D CG stuff.
Oh yeah. So characters are contained by the hand-built sets. And then if you look out the windows of the sets, then you'll actually see, so we had this directing class where in my MFA where we all directed a certain part of our films to somebody else. And that was actually, I was super hesitant on that because like my knee-jerk reaction is like, it's my film, don't anyone touch it except for me. Which I've definitely like gotten better about because I've realized how much you can gain from just trusting your coworkers.
Yes.
So these sets were actually created by a colleague of mine, Damien, who does like some really, really cool 3D and effects work. So yeah, so he actually, Nuke is like this compositing software where I can actually take the 2D characters and I can put them into my backgrounds, and then I can do all this color adjustment and add VFX if I want to.
Yeah.
And he helped me create those trees too, to help everything be consistent. So shout out to Damien.
Damien. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you look past the city that he's made, then I've taken photographs of the sky like around the area that I live. And that's the sky that we put in the backgrounds. So it's like the world of photography, that kind of is a shell around the world of CG, which is a shell around the hand-built sets, which is a shell around the 2D characters.
You had a cool reason for keeping the CG kind of not too realistic looking outside of the windows, as well as the sets that you did 3D.
Yeah. One thing that like, I kept getting all these tips from people on how to make my sets look like more realistic and all this. And like all the forums that I went in is like, if you want to make your metal look real, and like, I appreciate that. And it's like, it's good to know, especially for miniature artists. But like for my film specifically, I wanted it to be noticeable that it was a hand-built set. If I wanted it to look like a real thing, I would have just filmed my room or something.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really, and like the same thing when I gave him the direction, I wanted it to look like not a professionally like rendered, because he does also very beautiful, like very realistic looking textures and everything. But I was like, I really want it to look specifically like a CG set.
Yes.
So you can tell that it's another medium that you're going through.
Yeah. Would it feel painful for him? Like he cannot render, but focus on your vision?
I don't know. He used to respond really, really well to a lot of the direction that I was giving him. He's just a pro. He's honestly just a really professional person. So I feel like he can adapt to most anything that you give him.
Okay.
But,
and you mainly give him a photograph for him to have the idea. Like, how do you communicate with your coworker for that?
I kind of based a lot of this stuff off of like the outside stuff based off of a place I lived when I lived in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yes.
And what I like about Jacksonville, Florida is it's not like super, super rich, and it's not super, super, super destitute. It's just kind of somewhere in the middle. Like you're just kind of getting by, and people are just like taking what they got and doing pretty cool work with it, I think. So that I felt like that was a really nice, like kind of guiding principle for what I'm doing, where I'm just like, well, I've never done claymation before, but here we go. Let's just try it. So I had a couple, this right here, this right one isn't from, I think it's called Riverside is the name of this little strip. And this little Sunray Cinema, it had like an animation festival at one point. So it's like this whole film is actually kind of also a little bit of a time capsule of things that like I've been going through when I was developing all these concepts. So for example, all of my stuff is on campus because I specifically wanted to shoot in the workspace that they allotted me for the grad space.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to go in there that much because of the whole, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. Unfortunately, there is a disease that is killing people. And that has, one of the side effects is that I can't go on campus. But I wanted my film to not only be just a story that I tell, but like I wanted, since I know that this is something I made specifically as part of my MFA, I wanted to remember what was going on at that time.
That's beautiful. Yeah. It's put a little bit of you yourself. Yeah,
it's just like a little thing I can rewatch and be like, oh, there's my old workspace, there's where my coworker Savannah, or my colleague Savannah, sat, and all this stuff. This is all the junk that I put all over her table. The original concepts were just these kind of drawn concepts that I could kind of take props from. This right here was actually inspired by a little gift that my roommate Savannah, well, she's not my roommate, but she's my MFA roommate.
Yeah.
But she gave me like a little one with a cow in it, and I have a little car in there, just to, keep it copyright safe. But yeah, so there's all these like little shots here, so you can see like this shot here looks most like that little scene that I just showed you.
Can we talk about the poor dinosaur poster?
Oh yeah. Yeah, when I was making my I really love the idea of them being college students and them just having tons of little like local bands and local artists and stuff kind of populate their area.
Yeah.
So everything kind of, I wanted it to just be like hodgepodge, like, you know, this couch doesn't match anything. It's like a super small space. This is like a one-room apartment. So Enya lives here by himself and Jonesy just breaks in every once in a while. So you see this door is like lying off of its hinge.
Yeah.
Jonesy's like, oh, he locked the door. He must have not meant that. I'll just help him out. like break it open. But yeah, the dinosaur, I just thought that was like a nice little dark, like, you know, background kind of thing, like something that would be like a show date in a local venue. Same with actually, so this was the original kind of concept, and it's changed a lot for the cafe that they meet in. So the cafe, the theory behind it is that it's a bunch of college kids that own it. And in the day, it's just like a regular cafe. They serve bread and, you know, whatever. And then during the night, it's actually like a punk indie kind of venue. So you see tons of like posters all over the place of like mysterious bands that don't make any sense and everything. And you got this little piano in the background and all that.
Yeah, you made every key on the piano?
I mean, I painted every key on the piano.
Whoa.
So they've got like this little makeshift. So one of the key points in the story is that the portal is broken, and Jonesy just kind of slaps it back together to, you know, make it work. And he's like, hey, I fixed it, even though he hasn't really fixed it, because this is like an off-brand kind of build it yourself portal. But since this is a restaurant that has actual income, they've got a nice like streamline, like store brand, or not store brand, like, you know, name brand portal kind of thing.
Oh wait, so like those all have green one, it will mix media, or it's that's for green screen type?
Yeah, all the areas where there's green are going to have green screen kind of technology on them. And that's going to have a whole bunch of mixed media, but it's also going to be like swirling around and looking, and like everything's going to have like multiple layers on it, so that maybe you can kind of see something that looks kind of familiar, but it's going to be so clustered that you'll be like, well, I can't really see what it is. It just looks familiar.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How hard was that for picking all your colors? Because you have the green plants, but it looks like you avoided it most other places pretty well.
Yeah. So the thing with like chroma keying is the only reason that green and blue are usually used is because they're so different than your skin tones. And that way it's easier to pick apart what your skin is versus what's in the back. But like conceptually, you can make a green screen any color you want to. You just want it to be different from the subject. So I just wanted to choose something that was different. And actually, these are so square that really like what I can do, instead of just saying like, hey, camera, pick out, or hey, you know, software, pick out the green. I can just go like, all right, let me just draw a line, like straight line here, straight line here, straight line here. And that'll be fine too.
But when keying stuff out, I mean, you used, like you said earlier, almost every color.
Yeah. The green screen stuff isn't too hard because I have like pretty solid edges, and I can just, and I made sure if I had an actual budget and I had more time, I'd do actual like way more camera movements. But since I don't have either of those, almost every single one of my camera shots is completely still. So those were all so it's actually very easy for me to key regardless. It was more like the green being different was just more of like it was more of an indicator to me, like, hey, this is exactly what's going to be segmented out.
Yeah, you keep keeping in mind that this production is mostly need to be made by yourself. It's not a big team. So in design, in how you make it, you all consider the time.
Yeah. I think some people, like technically we're allowed to like have more people on kind of a team or something. Yeah. But I don't know. I think the only people that I have helping me I had Damien do those 3D sets. Yes. And help with the nuke trees for compositing. And then I had 2 people other than me doing the voice acting for Enya and Polly. And and then I had my brother print out some 3D printables, and then my mom offered sewing advice when needed. Oh, she did help. I should say, just for credit wise, she helped me sew this bed here. That was the main thing.
Whoa.
How big is that bed?
Like however big this is.
Perfect.
Oh.
I think it's like a little under half a foot, maybe like 5 inches.
Okay.
That's the longest part, I guess. Yeah, the whole set is like, the bedroom one is this big, and then the cafe one is like
Slightly bigger than bedroom.
yeah, the cafe one is like hard to move because it's since I needed to have multiple
Objects on it.
yeah, especially like the tables where people were sitting at.
Hmm.
I needed
Yeah.
to make the walls like taller so that the camera wouldn't see the upper edge of them.
Yes.
That's why it's a 2-story building instead of just like, and also there's some camera angles where it's pointed up, where it's like, a character is like looking down at the camera and so I needed to make sure that I could like easily make a believable like wall at that point.
Each wall pops off, right?
Huh?
You have your walls removable, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the tricky thing about a set, is that you have to like plan out exactly what shots you're going to, use it for. So to kind of take it easy on my brain, I just made the whole thing collapsible. So all of these, so the bases actually have grooves in them where the walls go in, and then you can see, I guess you can't see it. Well, yeah, right here, there's like a little yellow line. So that little floor molding, that's actually to hold the, to stabilize the wall that goes into it.
Yeah.
So they all have these little things, and then they have little bolts on the side where you can tape them together, or you can like, wrap little rubber bands around them and stuff. And but yeah, so I can film from pretty much every angle I want to. I think in the future, what I'd really like to do is also break up the floor on these wider sets. And then that way I could do more up shots if I wanted to. Right now, they don't really have a camera, or they don't really have a ceiling, sorry. So that's just, I just take a color and just, I just basically take the wall, and then in like the upshot, I have like 3 of them that I do. I just take a picture of the wall and like superimpose it in there and like shade it a different color. So
that's a nice solution for that.
Yeah, it's a nice, easy one. In the future, I'd probably want to do something a little bit more like flexible, but I think it's flexible enough for.
Yes.
Did you build this all on campus before you got the campus got shut down for COVID, or did you?
No? The vast majority of filming was in my little. So I had this little rig, and I can't transport this rig because it's too big to fit through the door. So, but I had it in this one little room, and I had all the little lights set up. So I never moved it. So the entirety of the filming is set here in my house. But there is one shot at the end of the film where like they start to defuse, and that lets off like a whole bunch of energy, and so it blows up the set. And so the set of like the image where the set's in the rubble, that's on campus, because that's where I wanted to show off, like, because theoretically I would be doing this on campus, but I'm not.
But things happened.
Yeah. Oh, this right here, actually on the right, that's the room where it's set into. So I had to actually take this door off its hinge to get this thing in. And then when I was moving this over to campus, it was such a pain in the ass. And so my door just isn't on a hinge right now.
It's similar to the bedroom in your character's one.
Yeah, I just have like a little like a book in the way so that the Roomba doesn't go in there and like vacuum over all of the stuff that's on the floor.
That's good to know. If robots try to take over the world, all we got to do is put books in the doorway and we'll be fine. Well, I'm sure you're going to talk about it, but the lighting trick you did for this scene is super cool too.
Yeah. So this is again kind of a shout out to Damien. So these are more of the background shots that he did. So he did that little strip. So he did this little strip here.
Yes.
And then he also did this little outside thing in this scene here. But we were going over the compositing stuff here, and he was like, if you actually take, different pictures, like if you turn off every single light except for the light that you want to go like you want to get light from, you can actually make these lighting passes where you can adjust the actual intensity of the light. So I tried that out, and I actually have this little, like, you can see it right here, this little line right in between the cactus and the lamp. And that's a little like wire where the LED is attached to. So I put that inside the lamp, and then I put another one inside, just, you know, the one inside this bathroom here is actually like, I have one of those turtle lights that has like a shell and then a light bulb underneath the shell. So the light, and I just took off the shell and it's like upside down. And then I have a light coming from outside the window as well, which is just like a normal, you know, light bulb light kind of thing. And so I took each, like a picture of each of those same scenes. And it's really cool because you can actually, like, for instance, I could make it look like all the lights were turned off except for the night light, or sorry, the desk light there. Or I also have a shot where the character reaches in and turns off the light in the bathroom when he exits it. So this is what the lighting pass looks like. So I basically take like one shot of just, you know, flat lighting, and that way I can animate over it. And then I take a puppet pass. Well, I call it the puppet layer, but they're not really puppets, they're just stand-ins. But I do that so that I know how much space that the characters are taking up, so I don't accidentally make my character too big or too small. And there you have some consistency. Then I have my little rough animation pass, and then I take my little lighting passes, and then this is what the final one looks like when you merge them all together.
Yeah. And no need to worry about the reflection because you got such a clean line. So composite is, it's not that hard.
Yeah, and actually it's funny, you can actually see the camera outline in this first one here. But the cool thing about chroma keying is that if you, like, depending on how much you control for it, you actually can retain some, like if you have, I actually have plexiglass in here. So there is the reflection of regular plexiglass. Yeah. But you can actually see the reflection of the pillows in there, which you would if you were actually, you know, in a real apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could take that away, but, you know.
You had in a diner scene as well.
Yeah. So that's just a cool kind of like built-in thing about saying, hey, how much threshold do I want to give this green pickup kind of thing.
Oh, I see.
I decided to only do those lighting passes for the first scene because taking photos of the set is actually surprisingly exhausting. And that cafe scene, there's way more photos for that. So I was like, you know what, let's just leave this all to compositing, because I just, you know, I love giving myself a bad time, but just let's maybe not that much.
But can you share like how come it's super tricky or exhausted for really took a photo for that?
Yeah, like, I think that the thing why it's so exhausting is that it's just so meticulous. You have to make sure, like, so I have this like this camera and then an app that syncs up on my phone so that I can click it without moving the camera. Yeah. And so if you were going to do every single lighting pass, you have to like basically have a checklist of like, okay, I have the regular shot with all the lighting. I have the regular shot with the little stand-ins to know where my characters are and how big they're taking up space on the scene. Yeah. And then I have to take a shot with, I have to take a shot. So like for this one, I would have to take 3 extra shots, one from the window, one from the desk light, and then one from the bathroom. And then while you're taking those, you have to make sure all the other lights are off. So you have to like kind of arrange in your brain, like, all right, we got to make sure every single one of these is checked off. And the tricky thing is you really can't go back after you've taken them. If you mess something up or if you forget to take an image that you need, you have to take it all over again. Because you know, stuff moves around, and then also when you add in like stop motion. So for instance, I don't have a lot of stop motion here in this like set, but in the cafe, I have like chairs scooting back when the characters get startled, and I have like, you know, what are they called? Coat racks falling over and stuff like that. And so to take like all of those shots and then multiply it by like 20 for the like, you know, the amount of frames that I need to capture the motion of something falling down. It's just like I would do it if I had, again, more time and more budget, but since I don't, you know, it's just one of the things that I have to take out.
Okay, to go for a good team member, and we can solve the problem in CG or compositing.
Yeah. It's honestly like this kind of stuff too. There aren't really a whole lot of little independent light sources in the cafe.
Mhm.
Like here you have like lots of little stand-up lights. And when I built the cafe, I was like, well, cafes aren't going to rely on like a floor lamp. They're going to rely on like overhead lighting. So
Yes.
it really makes sense anyway. These are samples of the characters put in before a lot of the color correcting. But yeah, again, like, here you got the little background and then you've got the photography behind that. So Damien's got this really nice little nuke tree. So I kind of just have to like take my shots, plug them in, and then make little minor adjustments where I need to make sure, one shot looks the same as the next.
Mm.
Here's one of the shots from inside the jacket. So this is the scene that replaced him going to the bathroom to yell at Jonesy, but now he's just in there. So yeah.
Did you shoot the background material, the bathing suit material several times and layer it, or is that crunched up?
Yeah, so this shot right here, what I did is I stole a floor lamp from my parents and I took the lampshade off, and then I like clipped the fabric on the inside of the lampshade. That way it was like a dome shape instead of just like, a flat shape. So that's one shot there. And then I took the stuff separately and then I crunched it up and made all these little bumps to make the foreground. And then that way the foreground could kind of shift at like, I don't know if you can see that. Let me just play it through. See how it kind of like squeezes around and stuff. I don't know if you can see that there, but it kind of moves at a different rate just to have like a little bit of motion parallax there. But then I also, I wish I could bring up the Toon Boom file because I did all my compositing for these jacket scenes in Toon Boom, and I put all these different like lighting and like it looks like there's light coming from the top here because that's where the whole of the head should be and all that.
And you're saying like the foreground, that moving part is by take a picture. It's not like layer digitally move it. It's your.
It is digitally moving.
Okay.
It is a separate image though. So I took a picture and then I cut out those pictures that I took and then I put them on a different layer and then I keyed in the movement. So just like programmed the computer to tell it where to go, added some ease and all that. And but no, it's not like photographically moved or anything like that.
I see.
It keeps switching sizes too. It's kind of mesmerizing. Your whole screen share gets small then big. I like it.
Oh, does it?
You experiment with so many medias. So how do you usually try to balance it? Like how to unite them together since they're 2D, 3D or different texture? Like how do you do that?
Yeah, a lot of it is really just kind of, again, like we were talking about planning being so big. A lot of it is really just trying to make sure that your styles you have like very concrete reasons for everything up front. Because if you have like a nice little style Bible where you first of all have lots of nice examples and you have everything kind of plotted and related to the story, or even if you don't have like like for instance, your film might not be like very narrative. It might be more like poetic or might be more like stream of conscience or consciousness. But you might, as long as you have like your specific driving events and you have like very strong concepts of what you want to communicate through them, you can kind of go back to that theory all the time. And like, even if you don't have something in your style guide, you can say like, okay, well, here's the theory that drives that. So, how do I make sure that is retained in whatever style I need to choose for this? But yeah, a lot of it though is really just minimum, like making sure those colors are planned out. And that's like one of the reasons color designers are so important as well.
Say it again.
Color designers are super, super important because I mean, like every single role really is about like that's one of the reasons that a lot of teams have a separate color designer from like an animator, because like that person can now pay attention to all the color and just nothing but the color instead of having to worry about like switching between all these different roles and switching between all these different like whatevers. And like same thing, like a director, their job is to step back and look at everything and make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, instead of like going like, okay, is this hand popping? Is like, is this color the right shade of blue or something like that? Like you have different roles because of that. it's hard to do that as one person, but like, you know, if you're doing it as one person, you just got to make sure you are your own director and that you're stepping back constantly to look at all these things, and that you're also making enough documents for yourself so that you can keep your mind on the right stuff.
That's so hard though. Like
Yeah.
proofing your own work is a nightmare. Like it's just, you miss the dumbest stuff that is so obvious. If you were if someone else handed it to you, you would see it immediately.
Yeah, that's also, it's funny. One of the classes that I took was kind of like a topics in film course. And one of the things that the film instructor said was like, everything changed when the rewind button came about. And I feel like I never really thought about it before he said that. I don't know why I didn't think about it, but like, you also have like, especially when you put something out on social media, like on Instagram, people watch it like again and again and again and again. And so even if you haven't found it, and even if your whole team of like, you know, 500 people hasn't found it, someone will find it because, you know, you have like 1 million proofreaders at that point. And yeah, it's I think though, one thing that does help is, again, like stepping back a lot. Like in my drawing classes, a lot of times they would say like, don't forget to step back. Like you'd have these huge, you know, pads of paper, and people would be like drawing like right up close to it. And, you know, they realize they've made this picture perfect ear, but it's way too small, like for the rest of the head, which is gigantic or something. But if you're stepping back constantly, you can kind of like, you know, readjust everything and say, oh, okay, well, maybe I need to like resketch this a little bit more before I start adding in more detail and all that. That's the same thing with this. Like, you know, I have to rewatch my film, and unfortunately that's like 4 or 5 minutes every single time I rewatch it, but it helps me pick up things that I haven't seen before, and then I just take a note of that and arrange to fix it later.
So by rewatching it to see the whole picture is the way you step back to see whether it works or not.
Yeah. Okay. It's essentially just like, even if I don't want to make that fix right then, because that's another problem, right? With like stepping back, is that you see all of the issues, and then you have like 7 things to do, and you're like, oh God, and I still need to finish this animation I'm working on right now. So yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. So in music, one trick that a lot of my friends I know do this too, but we'll print an MP3. And so I close everything I'm working on, and I just on my phone will be able to only listen to the MP3, or even on my computers. But like, I can't fix anything because it's one MP3. All the stuff, I close everything on purpose, and I'll listen to it, and I'll go walk away, have lunch, listen to it again. And I hear all the issues, but I can't fix them. So it drives me nuts. And I know immediately all the little things I have to tweak right when I open it again. Is there something similar?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I do step back and I take breaks a lot, and then like revisit things after, you know, because I told you like every 30 minutes I have to like, you know, do something to distract myself. But
wine.
What I actually use my shot list again for a lot of stuff like that is when I listen through, a lot of times I have designated times where I sit down and go like, okay, I'm going to review the whole thing. And I have a space in my shot list for notes, so I can make notes on the specific shots. And that helps a lot. But one thing I've also noticed that is kind of interesting that I didn't really expect until I started making a bigger project like this. So one thing you have to like balance between, right, is making sure everything is perfect, but also making sure that you're not getting obsessed over making everything is perfect. Because there are so many times when I've like tried to perfect a specific animation that I'm working on, and you know, I show someone the thing before and the thing after, and they're just like, they look and it's just like, so you have to remember, not everyone is like a musician, and not everyone is like an animator. And so the changes that are really enriching to you, sometimes you can afford to let those changes go if you're pressed for time. And what I've noticed helps with that is actually like, you guys have, if you've been following if anyone who hears this has been following my Instagram, they'll notice that sometimes I don't even export my video in my stories. I literally just like take a video with my phone and then upload the video with my phone. And that actually seems to compress enough details, and like, it makes it kind of like forces me to look at it through non-animator eyes in a way. I don't know why.
That's cool.
But like, it's neat because I just feel like like I can let certain things go a lot easier that way. Like I go like, okay, well, I'd prefer it if this was like this, but I can live with it if it's not.
That's a tough fine line though, right? Because there's diminishing returns, but there's also the little details that are all added up combined, which is a huge difference if you took all of them. So how do you find, I mean, do you have a kind of rough gauge for when to go stop?
Yeah, I think that's really honestly what I use sometimes, the recordings, like the recording of a screen and then like compressed onto Instagram. That's like, sometimes I'll just like, I'll get to a point where I'm like, okay, I've worked a whole lot on this, and and sometimes it's just like when I feel like I want praise from somebody, not myself. So I'll just put it on there and I'll just kind of be like, okay, I'll just like put it on there, give it a break, and then I'll come back and look at it. And it is kind of like a very triage-y kind of thing where you kind of gotta decide in the moment whether or not it's worth taking in this extra body, right, into your overfilled hospital, which you don't have enough time to finish your project and all that. Like, I feel like if I had more than 3 years to work on it, and if I had a bigger team, and if I had multiple people working on different things, then
You will.
I feel like if I had that, my triage process would be different.
You keep using a disaster metaphor for your project.
Yeah, if I was theoretically dying.
Like if scene 2 is bleeding out.
Yeah. Do I waste my gauze on scene 2?
Yeah. Well, gauze would be a great jacket interior as well.
That's true. Yeah, I got a lot of gauze from my top surgery, so maybe I'll use that in an. I could actually use that in my multimedia explosion. I'm still looking at different types of animation to throw in there. So
the explosion. Are you going to explode it?
People keep asking me that, and I'm like,
I wonder why.
I just like. So the reason I made it, if I didn't want to reuse this set, I wouldn't have put so much effort into making like the walls, like, you know, fold up and everything like that. And so like part of me is like a little bit heartbroken when people ask me like that, because I'm like, do you want it to explode?
Not that, but are you going to blow up something?
I probably will blow up something. And I don't know anything about explosives, so I might end up blowing up myself. I don't know.
I vote for go as like the opposite of dramatic as possible. Get like one little black cat kind of firework. And just one.
I thought you meant an actual cat, and I was like,
no. Sorry, they were called black cats when I was a kid. It's basically like this huge brick of really tiny. Just, I guess they're all technically illegal now. I don't know, but they're just like this long and like super thin and just like miniature dynamite, basically.
Yeah, I was thinking of actually like taking some firework stuff, like what you're saying, and then like playing it in reverse. And having them like suck up instead of like bust out, and then superimposing those around.
Oh, that's cool.
But I kind of just also want to like just take some wood and then like build a little structure around it so that no one gets hurt, and then like actually like just to get the dynamic of the wood flying around or something. But that whole process is I actually am working with an advisor on kind of some experimental attempts on that, because that definitely is something I've never ever done before. I might even do it all stop motion too. I don't know.
A quick aside: blowing up wood stuff is pretty dangerous because those splinters are what can, like, it's the old cannonball thing. It wasn't the cannonball; it was the wood splinters. So just wear glasses.
Yeah. That's why I was saying like I want to build a little, you know, structure around it. So that the splinters get impaled in that instead of in my little baby hand.
What were you gonna say, Fu?
Oh no, it's like now for explosion, I just suddenly think of Isle of Dogs, but it's more wide shot, right? It's your explosion is more, you'll see more tiny detail for that.
I am not honestly sure. I was thinking like my original, let me show you what I have here. My original thought was, so we have an editing class where one of the exercises that we do is we take several different films, and then we use the editing in that film to inform like a little mock editing thing, like a little segment of our film, and we re-edit it just to kind of like explore different editing techniques and different editing theory and stuff. And so one of them was like, one of the films I chose was Akira, or Akira. And you know that part where he like becomes a singularity at the end, and then like, so I'll just play it. It's just stupid. And then like this stuff starts shaking, and then like,
Oh, wow.
so like I was thinking like this big like ball, you know, coming out. But I think that's a little too on the nose though. I don't want it to reference.
Were you gonna do it on your desk, like another like a just super meta?
Yeah. This part right here is gonna be in my
Real lab
Yeah.
room.
yeah, in my workspace.
I kind of like, I imagine the idea of like, you know, the game Surgery, or not the Surgery, the one where like you put all the little pieces in with a timer, and if you don't get it in time, they all pop up.
Is that called like, yeah. It's like a plastic thing, and everything fits like into an X and an O and all that.
Yeah, like one of those in the end is just like super anti-dramatic or anticlimactic. It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, that actually, it's like in the Lego movie where like there's like a big explosion happening, and then they zoom out and it's just like a bunch of Legos. That's super cool. Yeah, that could be something that I
A twist?
that I explore. Yeah. Well, I mean, like at the very end, we actually here's a little spoiler alert, but
it's a butt.
yeah, in the end, he actually is in the rubble of his stuff. So we still have shots of them going around, but that could be really fun.
We have spoilers. I like it.
Yeah, I'll have to write that down though, because I like that little anticlimactic like little buzzer.
You just build to it, and like remove all the music, and just have like the cheesiest sound you could possibly have. It sounds real.
Like a little like party horn, like. So this is my shot list. So I have like a cute little completion percentage up here as well. I know it looks like not a lot has been done, but all this stuff kind of gets done. A lot of this gets done at the same time, like texturing and color and everything.
Oh.
So coloring's really, really quick. Line is going to take a while, but texturing and coloring are pretty much done at the same time. But this is my work log. And my work log, I did this whole, I love spreadsheets. Like I really do. In fact, when I was teaching my students in the undergrad character animation program, they build a film together. And so I had like a whole week or two on just like, all right, guys, let's talk about production management. Let's talk about spreadsheets. And
that's really helpful.
So this basically like goes down and measures all the different columns, and it sees whether I have a new task and everything. And it derives averages, like you see over here, of what I've done. And this is super helpful because not only can I see how long I've taken on things, but I can predict how long it's going to take me on various things.
Wow.
So like I basically do it by frame. So this is how much time it takes me to animate one character per one frame. So this is like 1 minute and 36. That's an average. Obviously, sometimes it'll take me faster, sometimes it'll take me slower, but it's a good starting point. And you can see color is like, that's a measly like 30 seconds per frame, because it's so fast. Yeah, it's not like I'm painting in everything. I'm literally just like tapping holes and just telling the computer to put in color where I
feeling okay.
Yeah.
You know yourself so much because you know how to estimate.
Yeah, it's really cool too, because it gives you a good sense of like, if I wanted to move on to do freelance work, I could have better estimations of like how long it takes me to do certain things by using this as a reference.
Nice.
But yeah, there was a lot of with the whole COVID drama and all sorts of different things happening over the summer and while I was employed and everything. There was a lot of stuff that like sometimes I would only have time to like work 1 hour per day, and so I'd have to be like, okay, how do I redistribute my work so I actually keep going on time?
Yeah.
And then sometimes I would also most of the time when I make my predictions of how much I have to work every single day or every single week, I try to make like a low end and a high end. So I say like, what's the absolute minimum I need to stay on track? And then what's the most I think I could possibly get away with? And then that way, like I strive for the high end, but then if I don't make it to the high end, I can look back at my low end and go like, okay, I'm still in a good spot, and I don't feel like defeated and worthless because I haven't done what I think I should do.
Does this include like, so I do something similar, but it's I only track real-time hours. So I know exactly how long a certain genre, a minute of music will take me, like you said, by average. But I also know that I'm not tracking all the breaks I take. So I have a separate one that I have, which is like how long in real time it takes me. Do you keep something like that? Because this appears to be your working hours.
Yeah, that would actually be a really good idea, because I do take like a lot of breaks. I usually take a break, actually, I don't know how other people are going to judge me on this, but I do actually usually take a break every 30 minutes, because that's when I feel my attention kind of waning, and that's also when I feel like my body starts to hurt. So I usually like run around my house, or like, like sit back and watch some TV or something like that.
That's very reasonable.
Yeah. And I've noticed too, if I push way too hard, like if I'm feeling my attention waning and I try to push past it, my work will usually suffer. And then also right after I finish whatever I'm doing, my break, I usually like procrastinate super hard. And so,
I hear you. Yes.
Yeah. So just to keep my mental health where it needs to be regular.
Yes.
Yeah.
Breaks are good. Do it right the first time. Do it slow.
Yeah.
And it would be faster.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people go like, well, how do I get motivated to work? And a lot of it I feel like is planning beforehand. Because if you're basically just working so hard that it's not a sustainable type of work, like you have to realize that, like, I'm not saying you guys are probably great at this, but
no, I'm still learning.
People have to like realize that like their bodies aren't just like machines that you just like add a little bit of food, add a little bit of water, and they're fine. Like you've got a whole bunch of other kind of like things to manage and like stress to manage. So
yeah,
we get sad.
Yeah. And like I think also, if like the things will work together too, right? Like if you feel like you're being productive and you feel like you're able to meet the goals that you want to meet, and you're not hurting yourself while meeting those goals, that kind of helps not make you that sad. Like,
yes.
Not saying that that's like obviously the cure to depression or anything, but like,
it's that simple. That's it. Just
yeah. But I find that having goals and being able to complete goals and being able to have like reasonable expectations of myself, I feel like that actually does a lot for my mental health just in general.
You're totally right. Like pre-planning kind of solves the blank slate problem. Like it's only a blank project with, if you just start working, it's just all blank and you have no idea what you're doing. It's a nightmare. So if you plan it out and have a concept first, it's so much better.
Yeah. And it also helps, I feel like, avoid burnout too. Cause like sometimes back before I did a lot of pre-planning, I would just kind of work straight ahead and just go from shot to shot and just be like, all right, just got to get it done. And there'd be so many times when I would put down a project and then just never pick it up again, because I would be so daunted by the idea of finishing this project that's already taken me so long to do. But if you have like an itemized list, like a shot list here, I know exactly what phase I'm in at any time. So if I'm like, I really can't handle doing roughs right now, because roughs are probably in my opinion, like the hardest part, because you're actually coming up with the visuals that's on screen. Whereas like, line cleanup animation, you're kind of just making it, you're just cementing the ideas you already have.
Yes.
So if I want something that like takes a while, but I don't need to think about too much, then I can just turn on the TV in the background, because I can't have any distractions while I'm doing roughs, or else my roughs will look like garbage. So yeah, like I can just like find ways to refresh myself by just doing different tasks on the same project, instead of just doing the same task over and over again, which burns me out. I don't know about other people.
No, absolutely. And I love that it overcomes the whole like, oh, I've got to finish this, and getting daunted is like, it's just, here's the next task. It's kind of rote, like just do this.
Yeah. And I think people, a lot of people would benefit very well from also like kind of learning to gear themselves more towards smaller tasks. Like, for instance, I used to be super, super active on Instagram. Now that I'm doing my thesis, most of my attention is directed towards that until I finish. But one of the things that I do is I keep a big notes document of like all these comic ideas and all these like, project ideas. So if ever I get the time to like, sometimes if I'm absolutely like burnt out, it's not very common because I really like this project, but sometimes there's been 1 or 2 cases where I'm just like, I don't want to look at Jonesy and Enya right now. Like the eye strain is too much for even me. I just want to like think about something entirely different. And so sometimes I'll look at my little notes document and I'll just be like, oh, this is a cool idea I had like 3 years ago. Let me just kind of like do a quick storyboard for this concept. Or let me I have all these notes documents of like world building for various comics and various films that I want to do. And so it's just nice to have extra projects because that way also you don't feel like you're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
But I think also if you just relax, that's not wasting your time. That's health. That's saying eating is wasting your time.
When you're still making something, which helps you in your career overall.
Yeah. And I feel like there's kind of extra pressure on me by myself to continue making things just because my portfolio is so small and unlike other people's portfolios that I feel like I really need to add stuff to this to make sure I'm as ready as I can be when I start looking for jobs and stuff.
You mean like adding an entire animated short on top of this out of nowhere for no reason? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
You do that. Although I'm glad you do because I enjoy this stuff.
Yeah.
You need to fill in more things for your portfolio. Like when do you start to aware of that?
I think I've always been aware of it because it's always like I'm in a MFA program where I'm basically surrounded by other graduate students, and almost every single other graduate student that I'm with, actually I think all of them, they're all previous art students. So one thing that we do at the beginning of every semester is we share our work, and I'm just like throwing my Instagram out there with all these pictures of like butts and hot dogs and whatever. And they're showing these like fully illustrated, beautiful turnarounds and like beautiful animation projects. And I'm just like, God, I guess I could do that too. I just have to have the time. And then I'm also like surrounded by all these like really awesome undergrad students who have like really impressive portfolios and they're in their undergrad. I'm like, oh my God, I really need to do this. So it's just kind of like, but it's not honestly that hard either, because I feel like when you if I show someone all the work that I have been doing on my thesis, like an animation person knows how much it takes to do a film.
Yes.
And then also like we were talking about with like small projects and stuff, like what I did with Johnny for the Open Animation Festival, that was great. That was like a week project or something.
We didn't spend long on it at all.
Yeah. And that was like I feel like it was like less than a minute long. It was like a super short little thing, but it felt so good to just make something complete and to just get it done and say like, wow, cool. I have a cool project with cool sound and cool visuals. I think using making sure that you're reminding yourself that you're doing something because you love doing it and not just doing something to put money in your pocket is like a super refreshing thing, personally. I mean, I feel like I have a lot of work and it's nice and it's fun and it's good to look at and everything, but I feel like it doesn't communicate necessarily immediately upon looking like, hey, this person does this professionally, which makes sense because I'm not working for studios. I'm working for independent people and working for myself and all that. So it's more about me making sure that I have a presentable portfolio that is that has things that people are looking for in addition to my own work as well, I guess.
I have so people, what they're looking for is kind of all over the place. And if this is the stuff you do all the time, isn't that kind of what you want to present anyway? Because that's what you want to do.
I probably do have a good degree of appeal in my work in that people see my styles and they see my characters and they're like, wow, that's pretty neat. I love
it.
Yes.
I do get that feedback a lot, that people just like the designs that I make. But I think that there's also a lot to be said about someone who knows industry standards of how to present work and how work is generally formatted and all that stuff like that. And even if I make a cool character in just a regular drawing or in a comic, that won't always be for instance, if I was trying to be a character designer, a person that's trying to animate that character based off my design, they can't just take that comic necessarily, unless they're super talented, which, you know, sometimes you get really, really awesome people that can just look at it and be like, like, I can analyze this character and visualize them in reality and draw them from every angle. But like, that's also your job as a character designer, right? Is to make sure that people can visualize it from every angle and, you know, every kind of expression that you need. So it's like, I need to, like, I feel like I just need a lot of, like, I'm not gonna just not have my own work, obviously. I want stuff to add to it that shows people like, hey, I can meet the demands needed for this work. And I understand what I'm getting myself into, instead of just going like, well, I just like to draw.
Like, you can trust me with all of your money.
I love drawing.
Yeah. That's definitely something, is proving that they could rely on you for a production that costs them a ton of money and a lot of jobs rely on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What is your dream gig after this?
I think honestly, like where I would really, I feel like everyone says this, but I'd love to just be running my own shows. Like I'd love to be coming up with like big show pitch Bibles and like coming up with big storylines and stuff like that. And, you know, character guides and all that. But I think realistically where I'd like to start off in the industry to make sure that I am more informed before doing those kind of things, I would love to be a storyboard artist, because I feel like that's where I get the most satisfaction. And I feel like also that's where I feel like I shine the most in terms of when I look at my work. So I'd love to be a storyboard artist. And then that way, first of all, I'd be doing what I love and I'd be learning more about storytelling. And then I'd also be able to be meeting lots of colleagues and to be getting an idea of like how the industry works that way. And then I could apply that to if I'm ever able to become a showrunner and say like, okay, what worked when I was a storyboard artist? What didn't work? And I could like take in all my experience from talking to different team members to try to make sure, you know.
If you pitched, let's say you pitched this show and they picked it up, would you be comfortable running it, but not being able to do the animation?
I think the thing that I would have to do in terms of like, if I was running it and I wanted to be a responsible showrunner, is I would really want to work out with the people who are working with me on animation. I'd say like, all right, let's figure out what the most economical approach to animation is while simultaneously still being like, you know, an attractive kind of animation. Because like for instance, if I pitch this to Adult Swim, I feel like they would be keen on maybe the idea, but I know that Adult Swim is, for instance, notorious. Well, I shouldn't say notorious, but they're well known for like really neat, unique shows, but that have a very small budget. And so I can't see hiring a bunch of animators that animate the way I animate on, you know, a nice tight budget. So I'd be comfortable with that, but you know, I'd really want to work closely with them to make sure that we're coming up with a good solution instead of just like, you know, just do whatever someone decides, I guess.
So the key takeaway is please hire you. I pick up the show. I don't see why not. How many people would it take to make this show?
Like a show based off of this? I think it would really depend on like, it would really depend on how far I was allowed to take it. Like if I had an Adult Swim budget, which this is not to say that Adult Swim won't give, you know, larger budgets to people. I just know that typically they're smaller budgets. But like if I had a smaller budget, then I could actually probably run this with like maybe myself and then ideally like 3 or 4 other people.
Mom and your brother?
Mom's gotta be one.
just my family.
Family business.
The Ducks family hour.
I like it.
Sounds nice. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that like, you know, and that's also if we were just turning out like, sometimes shows don't ask for like the 30-minute shows. Sometimes they're just like 15 or little tiny little like half episodes or something like that. If they were just like little small in between episodes, like in Japan, they did those, I think it was like Doraemon or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. machine cat, that one?
Yeah, the little blue cat thing with the pocket in his stomach and stuff. I think that they'd have like real episodes, like 30-minute segments, but then they also have these tiny little like they're still story driven, as in like, you know, you have to follow it, but they're like these really tiny, like almost I think like 10-minute episodes or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
It might be something else. It might be like it might be one of the Sanrio characters instead of Doraemon, but anyway, but like, yeah, if it was just like those tiny little things, like that might just be me. Because also you build one set, that set is good for the rest of the season. And you only, you know, you just use that from different angles. You don't have to have a background designer for that. You just need to comp it going in.
Well, let's get you picked up for like 52 episodes of 11 minutes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm already done. Here you
Yeah.
go. I'll mail it to you right now.
I don't know how, but someone make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it not to like, I don't want to like also sound like I'm I'm underestimating things. This is just based off of like what my workflow is. So
your spreadsheet supports you quite a lot. So
yeah.
you just go like, look, here's the data. Here are all the things I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. There's many a time when I think like, oh, it'd be lovely to have an actual team working on this instead of just me. And this would be so much faster.
You'll be happy to create a spreadsheet for everyone. Is it possible?
Oh yeah, I love spreadsheets. I mean, well, if it was like a spreadsheet for every individual member of like 100-member team, no, I'm not doing that. But the cool thing also about like the shot list is that everyone can access that. So you can like anybody who is like, oh, hey, I finished this shot. I can just look at the shot list and see, you know, where we're at and update it and say, hey, I'm done. And then, you know, other people pick it up. So it's a nice like team tool in addition to a individual tool.
Yeah.
So have you considered just making it? I mean, like sorry for the but have you considered taking this and just continuing it on your own and just in the side time, make like maybe just like the 2-minute episodes or extend? Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that I made the set so flexible was because I wanted to actually kind of like make a prototype for the show. And so that would include like, once I'm done with this, I probably would have little tiny micro episodes that I throw out there. And like, those are all just part of the pitch package, is just showing different types of examples of various things.
You're so ready. That's nice. Yeah. Because what I start to get to know you first is that you're Johnny's very cool friend. And also, the way I can approach to your artwork is from your Instagram, social media mainly, or your YouTube. But like from this thesis film, you really pull out like everything has a lot of planning and deep thoughts for it. It's not just like, I love to do some handmade thing. I like to know they are all designed for your story. And everything you test it out and you just, because the plan. So when you execute it, you can really pull it out and even make a further use. I feel like, wow, it's all about planning and it's so helpful. That's what I learned.
Yeah. And I think honestly, like planning is actually like a really fun part of production or pre-production, whatever you want to call it. But it's just really cool to have like, I don't know if you guys ever did this when you were younger or if you still do it, because I don't know, I still do it too, but like it's fun to think about the future and to think like, oh man, like if I can do this, then maybe, you know, maybe this will be able to happen. Like I think about moving out to California all the time and like what kind of things I would do to try to network with people and to try to like get, to try to meet more creatives, to be able to collaborate on projects. And you know, you think about like, I know that you moved recently, Johnny. And so I don't know if you were like, oh man, when I move, this is what I'm going to do to like, you know, to pick up work. And this is what I'm going to do to try to like, you know, communicate or to commute to different places and all this stuff like that. And you start to visualize what your life is going to be like.
This one I didn't. I mean, I left LA County and Orange County and went to a very not remote, but I'm just outside of DC in Maryland. So it's one of those, I'm very fortunate and I have a whole lot of work already that will follow me wherever I go.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I get what you're saying. I do like, yeah, I think everyone's sitting there in mid shower. You're like, what will I say when I get my Oscar? Or
Yeah,
just something
exactly.
stupid
Yeah, I'm
like
like,
that.
this
Yeah.
is my NPR interview in the shower.
Right. Doing Ira Glass's voice.
Yeah, Ira Glass and ducks is
I
the
do. I shower with my tote bag and everything. It's really good.
this is a true sustaining member.
It is. For
Yeah.
$5 a month, you can go shopping with it.
I used to do this thing like when I was in my undergrad in psychology, is I would like register for classes, but then I would make these big spreadsheets of like what classes I was going to take and which ones were available and stuff like that. And then I would like research all the teachers and everything and be like, and then I'd sit in on their classes and be like, oh, this person is being sassy here. I know what I'm going to say when I go to this next class.
You had so the spreadsheet had comebacks in it, like pre-planned.
Sorry, what? Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's
I don't remember. I wish I had written them down, but it was more of like, just like save this until you actually take the class and then just forget about it.
What spawned this awesome spreadsheet love?
I think, well, so when I did my undergrad, my major was in psychology, but my minor was in computer programming, and then I had another minor in film studies. So
Underachiever.
I mean, it's a lot less achieving than you might think. It's more just like, hey, I have a lot of stuff and I have bright futures left over. What am I going to do with it?
He says while getting his master's. Yeah, go on. Please go on.
But yeah, so like I think the more computer science classes that I was taking, the more I realized, like, for instance, computer science and math, like a lot of people really, really hate those subjects, but they're like, I think people hate them because they just put a lot of pressure on you, like theoretical pressure, where it's like, God, I've got to learn a new way of thinking and I'm going to be graded on it. But like in reality, when you go to those classes, it's literally just puzzles. It's just, and if you approach it where it's just like, I'm just trying to figure out puzzles and I'm just trying to like, find a different way of thinking. And you try to push that, that assessment kind of aspect to it. And you also like, I think that this comes a lot with art as well, like making sure that you're not taking assessments personally. You're taking assessments as like, this is part of the learning process. Oh, I got a B. Why did I get a B? Okay,
Yeah.
Let me internalize that, see how I can get a better grade next time, kind of thing. But yeah, so like a lot of it was just kind of in approaches to puzzles. And my dad uses the heck out of spreadsheets as well. He does like engineering and computer programming as well. But so I think a lot of it was like from being around and seeing what he did, and then like finally clicking when I started taking computer science classes, like, oh, this is really going to be helpful when I try to solve these different, matrices and stuff like that. And this is going to be really helpful when I try to, like, because you can actually do a lot. You can actually program in Excel. Like you can make logic-based program for things to change and like influence multiple other cells and stuff. And it's just kind of like baby's first programming. So it's just, I just like, I feel like they're also easy to read too, especially when you start like color coding stuff. So I found that once I started using them as like presentation tools and noticed that people were able to read it pretty easily, I was like, oh, well, I'll just keep doing this.
I like it. Your future is basically animation and relational databases.
Yeah.
That's it. Cool. How can I combine MySQL and stop motion?
Yeah.
So you take a lot of breaks, which is great. What would you consider a healthy work balance? Like how many hours a day, including breaks? Because you take breaks, but you're not like leaving and running errands usually. You do drink your wine, but we don't tell anybody. But like, so what would be a good work day, like a solid or work week? Not sometimes they have to be gnarly, but in general.
Yeah, I think a lot of like the work balance stuff is also, I know this sounds kind of privilegey, but it's also like a lot of it does, for me, has to do with putting stuff into perspective as well. And I know that that's not an option for everyone. Like some people are literally working like hand to mouth. But like making sure that you realize that your stuff has purpose, even if it's something that you don't necessarily want to do. So like if you are pushed for like what you were talking about, like those like heavy grind things. Like sometimes if you're doing, it's such a hard thing to answer, because if I'm doing like really light work, I can do that for like, 3 hours. If I'm doing like super heavy animation work, then sometimes I can only do like, again, like 30 minutes. So like, it really is like seeing how much, like you got to pay attention to your body, pay attention to your emotions and take them seriously, and not just go like, oh, well, I'm tired, but that doesn't matter. It's like, if your body's telling you to stop, stop. And I think a regular day for me, it depends on what I'm doing. So right now, what I have done is for my thesis, I've only scheduled actually about 2 hours of work every single day. And it's like one hour to 2 hours. But the nice thing about that is that I can cluster days better. So if I have to take a day off, then I can easily move those hours over to another day, or split them up against other days. So I try to like do things by week and say, I need this many, like I need 7 hours done this week. So I know I got to work about 1 hour per day. So that way I can like, shift them around if I need to. And then usually that will get me trying to work a little bit harder on the front end. And if I work with the conception in my mind, like, hey, if I work hard now, I'll have more time off later, then that helps me not burn out as much, because I know that there's going to be payoff, and I know that I'll be able to have time, instead of like, I feel like the worst things that burn me out the most is feeling like I'm working super hard and feeling like there's no end whatsoever. And feeling like there's no purpose. Like I feel like you can work harder if you feel like you're actually, like the stuff's paying off. And I feel like that's important for anything, right? Like,
yeah.
Even if you're working on a cartoon that you have no interest in whatsoever and you hate the direction it's going into, you're still getting benefit from that, because you're learning how to work with, new people, you're learning how to communicate, you're learning how to expand the styles that you're working in and all that. And that does benefit you. It's just boring or frustrating sometimes. So I don't know if that really answers that question, but
I think so. So it's kind of like listen to your body. Was he like,
yeah,
right? And then remembering the reason that you're doing the thing.
yeah. Or at least like, stepping back and thinking about your goals as a person, just like, because like some people have goals like, oh, I want to be a famous artist, and some people are just like, I just want to be a good dad, and some people are like, I want to be a teacher. So like making sure that you like step back and you think about that goal. And sometimes I feel like, and again, this might sound kind of privilegey. Unfortunately, I come from a place of privilege, so like it's hard for me to speak outside of that. But like sometimes if you see something, like if you're working at McDonald's and you happen to be in a place where your staff and your manager are treating you like crap and you're not getting paid very much, then like sometimes you do have to think like, all right, is this benefiting me? Am I learning what I need to learn? Or do I need to start strategizing on how to get the hell out of here? So like, cause like sometimes and I know that's not necessarily an option for everyone to just be able to get a new job or to be able to move to a new place. But, and really we should have, legislation that helps everybody exist to the point where they don't need to make those decisions on like, I need to either quit or finally do something that I love. That's horrible. But yeah, I mean, like sometimes you do have to take like certain kind of risks, but yeah, obviously you need to make calculated risks to be able to see whether or not you can do that. Sorry, I know that's like an ethereal answer, but it's like, I just feel like so many people are in so many different situations that it's really, it's hard for me to speak to every single situation that's out there, I think.
And we can only speak for ourselves, really.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah, I mean, that was a great answer.
Yeah.
Because you're a great person.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
I wonder, does your show that those characters you create, they will have that kind of mindset when they overcome something in their life? Like, would they have that similar philosophy that you just shared, or no, it might be different example?
Well, the characters in my film, they don't have like a real big moment like that in the particular film that I'm working on. I think theoretically, if the show were to come to foot, they are younger than I am. Like I draw a lot of their mentalities and their approaches to things from when I was in college, because they're fresh out of undergrad. They're like, I guess like, 22, 23 or something like that. But yeah, so they have like just different things that they're experiencing in their life for the first time. I feel like I didn't really come to the conclusions that I'm expressing now until like, I don't usually talk about my age because I feel like age is kind of I feel like people have these preconceived notions on what people do on what, area of their life, but I feel like it's helpful in this situation. So I'm 30, actually I'm 31, 32. I forget one of those numbers, but I'm in my 30s, early 30s. And when I was, just out of college or undergrad, I had a much different mentality. And a lot of that was due to the frustrations and the stress that I was experiencing at that time. And now having, a couple of years on that, being able to look back and see that within context and see that within like a larger goal that I have for myself now, everything is like, I could tell myself everything that I know now, and I still don't think I would internalize it the same way. So to speak to my characters, I feel like they probably would have similar ideals as myself, but I feel like they would still act on them in different ways because they're also kind of dumb. And so on top of like being not just, just having gone through the life experience, they're also just a little bit dumb. And I hope that answers the question. It's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, thank you. I got so many questions, but I just my very last sentence is that thank you so much for like sitting more than 30 minutes with us. That's super precious.
I'll talk forever and ever and ever about it. I love talking animation, so anytime. And I appreciate you guys letting me talk your ear off about. I know I ramble sometimes too, so.
I love it. It's perfect. Thank you so much. There is one more thing you have to do though.
I didn't think of any. I was gonna do like a cute little GIF or something, but time got away from me.
Or you have any questions for next guests that work too?
I actually have it written down on the shared document that we have.
And how would it sound out loud if you read it?
I'm about to find out in just a second. Okay, so I would like to ask whoever comes on next, where do you find your collaborations come from the most? So do you find them coming from like work or friends or acquaintances? Or if not, do you find that collaborations are important to you as an artist?
Oh my, that is a great question.
Easy,
I love it. Question. Oh really? Super
no, I'm kidding.
And then of course, why? To whatever they answer.
Okay.
That would be my question to every next guest. Why?
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 Not even nothing else. Just when they come on, why?
Yeah. That'd be great. So ducks, why?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Do you want to plug anything?
Plug anything?
We'll link to everything, but why don't you just say it all, like your socials, your stuff, your social security number, everything you want.
Yeah. I'll get my birth certificate. Hold on.
Okay.
So I think honestly, if you guys want to see more of my work, the best place is really Instagram. That's where I really post the most frequently. You guys can also, so my Instagram is just Instagram/Dux, DUX.
Okay.
And then my YouTube is, I forget, I think it's like Ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just my name twice.
Yes.
And I have like a SoundCloud and stuff too. I think they're all kind of like linked together on everything. Like you can get everywhere from everywhere. So
we'll include the links.
Yeah. I would include my site, but my site has a lot of my like my name on it and stuff. And I just for security reasons, want to kind of keep that private for now.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't take a moniker to not use it.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Dux is just a really cool moniker. I'm glad I snagged it in time to use it on Instagram.
Yeah, getting away with a 3-letter name that is pronounceable, it's very impressive.
Yeah. Took a lot of skill. not just getting there early, I guess.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very, very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay, now go away.
All right.
I was kidding.
Yeah.